Hopefully those will be the first of many. Take care of a few housekeeping things. Hopefully you got some breakfast. We have a lot of breakfast burritos. There's a ton of food, so help yourself. And then we will also have a break, and at that time you can grab some more food over there. I just want to take a really quick moment to thank my staff for putting this on and putting that spread on. Nico Mejavon, where are you? Nico? Denise? Let's see, Janice Lum also helping putting this on as well. Thank you so much. Diana Martinez, where are you? And Lori Fortuna, thank you so much. So we have a full program for you today. We have a lot to cover. So we want to just jump right on and get started. We're going to keep you busy. So hopefully you'll stay for the whole time and you'll get a lot out of this. You'll get out of it what you put into it. So with that, I want to introduce to you Martina Bernal, our city manager.
Thanks. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is a really big group. I didn't realize it was going to be this big, which is great. It's tremendous. I'm glad we have great participation today. Today, of course, is really one of the major, the kickoff of one of the major initiatives that we've decided to take on over the past year, and that is to really focus on the organization and in trying to make sure that looking ahead into the future that we have an organization that has the leadership and the capacity and the people that will make it great. I think we have a great organization, lots of committed people, but we're going through changes. There are many changes, as Frank will I'll introduce them in a second, will describe, that are going on in the world and with demographics and even with our own organization that really is causing us, and we really need to sort of be progressive about addressing those issues and preparing the city to have the leaders that it needs to continue to be successful, to continue to be responsive to the community. But so much of it too is that what's important is that we have an organization where people want to lead, where people want to do great work, where they love to work, where they feel like they're making contributions, where they can make decisions, where they can innovate. So a lot of this is about creating an organization and a culture that does all of that. That's really, to me, at the heart of what we're trying to do here. Obviously, we need to have great people to do that, and we do already, but we can always do better. And so this is a start, and I want to thank very much all of you for being here, the HR department for putting this together. They've got a number of really great initiatives to begin that process. So this is one piece of it. It's the succession planning piece, of course, because again, we need to prepare people to take on these leadership roles and to create that great culture that we want to continue here in the city of Santa Cruz. So with that, I want to introduce sort of our presenter this morning, Frank Benest, who is a really well-known city manager, was city manager in Brea and then in Palo Alto, and really has been fortunate enough to work for some premier organizations that have been at the forefront of organizational development, and he really has taken that on and is well known for doing that, preparing organizations and preparing people in the field, training, and just improving organizations. And so we're very fortunate to have him. He retired not that long ago, but not really, but is then taking on this role of helping organizations throughout the state of California in particular, and really throughout the country. So I want to thank him for being here, and I think this will be a really great session. And again, it's just the beginning of our attempt here in the next year or so to improve the organization and make this a greater place to work. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Let's give Martina Haney. As Martina mentioned, I'm a recovering city manager. Okay, our topic today is surviving the retirement wave and growing our successors. I'm very passionate about this topic of developing our talent and growing our leaders. Your local government operates in a service and knowledge economy, and talent is the key ingredient in respect to your long-term success as an organization. The problem is that Santa Cruz, like local governments across the nation, is facing this retirement wave of baby boomer managers and professionals, by the way, a great generation. This retirement wave of baby boomer managers and professionals exiting stage right. There are 10,000 baby boomers retiring from full-time careers every day for the next 17 years in the U.S. economy, creating a tremendous leadership crisis and brain drain, especially in the public sector. And I'll share some data with you in a few moments. Now, to exacerbate matters, talent, your current talent, is mobile. It can go anywhere, anytime. Now, when I was a young professional, just a few years ago, local governments did not have a talent crisis. When I was applying as a young professional for my first city manager job in my early 30s, every time I applied, there were 30 or 40 very qualified baby boomers who I had to compete against. There was this gigantic generation of talent, the baby boomer generation. Every time I applied, as I said, there were 30 or 40 very talented applicants for that job. To land my first city manager job, I had to go through, and this is not, I'm not exaggerating, I had to go through 75 recruitments. 75 recruitments. Until I found a city that did not know how to do a background check. Thank God for Colton, that started my career. So today, this retirement wave issue is a quiet crisis. The literature calls it a quiet crisis because it has crept up on us. We cannot wait for people to develop. In the old days, we could wait for people to develop. We have to accelerate their development, and that's what we're going to be talking today. So I'm going to suggest to you through this presentation that talent development is not a nice discretionary thing to do any longer. It's rather a critical business necessity, as Martine alluded to. So we're going to get started. And we're going to start with two questions. So this is going to be an interactive session, so I hope you're ready. Everybody has their coffee. We got some, okay. So take out a pen. There's pens on the table if you didn't bring one. And on your PowerPoint or some other piece of paper, I want you to jot down. We're going to collect some data from you. Jot down, in the minds of line employees and support people, the people who do the work around here, the line employees and support staff, the program staff, what are the images that immediately come to mind when they think of the work that you do as managers? So jot down a few things. And then number two, from your perspective, what are the rewards and joys and benefits of your work as managers? So jot down a couple of three responses to each of those two questions. Be forthright. Janice, will you be on recorder? Thank you. Can you come forward, Janice? Thank you. You get your choice of colors. You're welcome. And I'm going to repeat it, and you just jot it down. Okay, let's see. What's an image that immediately come to mind when line staff, program staff, think of the work you do as managers? Who has one? Yes? Meetings. You never do any damn work. You're in meetings, right? You're in meetings. Okay. What do you got?
They don't fully understand. They feel like we don't fully understand their jobs.
Yeah, you don't get it.
Right.
You don't understand the work. You don't understand the people because you're in meetings all day. Okay. What else? Meetings, and you don't get it. Yes.
They're obsessed with numbers.
Yes, and particularly budget numbers. Oh my God, budget. All you care about is budget. Okay. What else? What's another image that immediately comes to their mind? This is where you help Frank out. Yes.
Push paper.
Push paper. You're a paper pusher. pushing paper. Yes.
Tell us how to do our jobs.
Yes. All they do is just tell us how to do the job, and we know perfectly fine how to do the job. Okay, tell us how to do the job. Yes. I'm sorry? Leading. So you're leading. Okay, so that's an image. Okay? Yes. Yeah. Too many changes in management, or you're just pushing too many changes. Too many changes, too many initiatives, too many things. Okay, got it. What else we got?
Discipline.
Discipline. Okay, discipline. Or a lack thereof. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Dictatorship, you make all the
Dictatorship, you make all the decisions. Okay. I'm going to share with you, I did all these exercises. I'm going to share with you what I wrote down. You don't have to write this, Jonathan. Okay, meetings. Overly focused on budget. All work, no fun. Boring. Harried. Out of touch with work, out of touch with staff. Consumed by politics. Rules, procedures, administrivia. Overworked, no time for family, abused, and then finally, old, tired, hanging on. Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's go, as managers, you do experience some rewards and joys and benefits. Who has a reward? Yeah.
Staff is engaged.
Yes. So when you engage people and you see them engaged and energized, and that's very gratifying. Okay, very good. What else? Yes.
Less routine.
Less what?
Routine.
Less routine. That's right. Less routine. Yes.
Happy customers.
Yes. Happy customers. And again, that's very satisfying when you see that your team is delivering a service or an experience that makes you, yes.
Representing your direct reports feel they don't have a voice.
So giving a voice. Yes. That's a great, satisfying role. Yes, sir.
Problem solving.
Yeah, problem solving. Isn't that a joy? I mean, we are stimulus junkies. I mean, if we can solve problems, man, that's good. Okay, so positive work culture. Nobody mentioned more money.
I did.
Okay, good, thank you. More money, better benefits, hopefully, or you'll unionize. Okay, let's put that down, please. What else? What's another one not on the board? What's that?
Better retirement.
Better retirement, better benefits, including retirement. Yes?
Planning, creativity.
Okay, so the opportunity to plan and be creative in the problem solving. Okay, let me share with you what I have. The opportunity to make a difference, build community, serve others, improve the lives of others, opportunity to build a team, which is very gratifying, and create that culture, solve problems, leave a legacy. Well, I've discovered at midlife, by the way, I'm not old, I'm just at midlife. At midlife, legacy is an incredible motivator. And finally, there's a lot of action. What a gas. You know, thank God it's Monday. Man, I got problems to solve. Okay, let's give Janice a hand as our recorder. Now, what do you notice about these two lists?
They don't overlap.
They do not overlap. In fact, you're being kind. There's a tremendous disconnect between the images in the minds of program staff and the benefits and joys and rewards that we experience as managers. And so the reason I start off with this is because everything that we're going to be talking about for the next couple hours or so will be for naught unless we begin to communicate the joys and rewards of management. Nobody will join us if they perceive that this is the life that we lead. So we need to begin to communicate and share the joys and rewards and benefits of the leadership role, the management role that we have. Otherwise, people will not want to join us. And I'll tell you, if you're like managers, when we go to a conference, a managers conference, and Martine and I are walking down the aisle, and there was a younger professional listening behind us, all they would hear us do is bitch, bitch, bitch. About our councils, about our staff, about our constituents, about the hard life we have, all the adversity. We have to stop bitching so much and share the joys and rewards. Otherwise, forget all this stuff about development. It won't work. So that's a role that all of you have as part of your leadership responsibility, is beginning to share the joys of leading in local government. Okay, let's get into the real meat of this. This is what we're going to do together today in a very quick-paced, interactive way. We're going to explore the demographic context in which we operate. We're going to identify your city workforce profile, and Janice will share that. We're going to talk about some of the impacts of this retirement wave. We're going to discuss some of the big challenges that require certain capacities that Martine alluded to. We're going to then collect some data from you in an exercise on my most powerful development experience. I'm going to share some typical talent development goals from succession development programs from across the country. I'm also going to discuss some of the key research findings about how you accelerate your own development as well as the development of others. Then we're going to critique some of our initial efforts. HR is going to share some of the programs we have going, and we're going to critique some of that. Then I'm going to share the 10 top lessons from succession development programs from across the country in the public sector. Then follow up some resources and reaction. There'll be a quick pace. In case you haven't figured it out, I'm a pretty informal guy, so at any point you have a question, you want to share an observation, you want to contradict what I have to say, that's cool. Get my blood circulating. Also, as Lisa mentioned, we'll be taking a break mid-morning. That's a tech break as well as a restroom break, so please not only turn your phones off or put them on vibrate, but please take them off the table. Leadership, we're going to be talking about leadership development. Leadership is all about focus. And that's what we're going to do today, and no distractions. So please put them in your pockets or your purses or any place but the table. Okay, let's get going. Let's start with the demographic context in which we operate. The numbers are dramatic. There are 80 million baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964 who are leaving the U.S. economy. There's only 50 million Gen Xers born between 1965 and 1980 replacing us. There's quite a gap there. And then there's this gigantic generation, millennials born between 1981 and 2000, entering the workforce. So the millennial group is much bigger, not much, but they are bigger than the baby boomer generation, and they are not joining us. And we're going to be talking about that. They are not joining us. Let's just take a little quick survey because I'd like to understand the audience. Would everybody please stand up? Okay. This is probably the most difficult thing you're doing today. Okay. If you were born between 1946 and 1964, please sit down. We've already lost a lot of our baby boomers. They've already retired. Okay. First of all, those people still standing, I want to congratulate you because you're going to be in very high demand. So you're very well positioned in the workforce going forward. If you're a Gen Xer born between 1965 and 1980, could you please sit down? We have millennials. We have some millennial managers. Wow, that's good. Thank you very much. Sit down. By the way, about 3 years ago, I've been doing this now for 20 years. There weren't any millennial managers. Now we have a few, so congratulations. Okay, now, when this retirement wave hits the U.S. economy, it has a bigger impact in the public sector as opposed to the private sector. And the reason is there's a higher proportion of baby boomers in the public sector as opposed to the private sector. Why did a whole generation of baby boomers join the public sector? What's that? Well, that's true. When we were all, our parents were all from the Depression era. They said, go into government. There's, job security, good benefits. That is a reason, but not the primary reason.
The 60s.
What's that?
The 60s and that whole...
The 60s. We were all part of the JFK era. I didn't consider for a nanosecond joining the private sector. How unimportant. How inconsequential. Why would I want to waste my life in the private sector? I wanted to join government and change the world. So, my fellow Americans, that's not what your country can do for you, that's what you can do for your country. We all became part of this wave of talent who joined government to change the world for a better place. And therefore, now that there's this retirement wave, it's impacting government much more. Here's some data. If you look, the blue is government and the orange is private. So if you look at the 55 to 64 age cohort, that's the senior management age cohort. The greater proportion in government of baby boomers than in private sector. If you look to the 45 or 54 age cohort, that's the step-up cohort. Those people step up into senior management, into top management. So again, higher percentage of baby boomers in the public sector. Now, that's a big problem. But a bigger problem is the under 25. The millennials are not joining government, they're joining the private sector. And there's a very good reason for that. If you look at the survey research of university students, at best they know nothing about what we do. At worst, they think our work is in local government, bureaucratic, second-rate, mind-numbing work. Oh my God, what a tragedy. Now, there is some good news in the survey research. They have some of the same values as the baby boomers. They want to save the planet, they want to build community, they want to make a difference. The same values. The challenge is that they only see that they can achieve their values by working or volunteering in the third sector, the nonprofit sector. So our challenge is to get them to connect their values with the work that we do. We have a great story to tell. We're just not telling the story. And so there's a twofold challenge here with this silver tsunami that we're facing. One is, how do we accelerate the development of everybody already in the pipeline? And number two, how do we attract young professionals into the pipeline? And we have to tell a better story. We're not telling it. We have not had to tell the story. We had this gigantic generation of baby boomers hanging around. Okay, let us talk about our own workforce analysis. So Lisa, if you can come forward and share with us the analysis.
So now we're entering into the workforce analysis stage. This is an important snapshot in time of where we are as an organization. So what we need to do is identify the risks and the opportunities that we have to develop our talent pool in the next 2 to 5 years and ongoing. So if you look here at the average age of this organization, it's 47 years old. So we've broken it down into 4 categories: all employees, non-safety, public safety, and executives. And you can see now, where we are now, in the all employees, there's 29% that's eligible to retire. And in 5 years, that jumps to 45. And in non-safety management, 38, and then it jumps to 54%. So you can see in the next 5 years, we have some big holes that we're going to start to see.
What makes someone eligible for retirement?
So yeah, what we looked at was age for non-safety 55 and for safety 50, and then 5 years of service. That's when we started.
Let's say that 29%, is that included in the 45%, or is that exclusive above, assuming those 29% are already retired?
That includes that number. It grows. So what we did was, we're just going to show a couple of sample departments of what it's going to look like in the future and some of the things that we need to be concerned about. And eventually what we'll do, our department will look at every department and do an individual analysis for each of you. So all what we want to do, again, we're just going to show you sort of a snapshot in time of a couple of departments. So for example, here in the finance department, if you just look, the green means that they're eligible to retire in the next 5 years. That murky green. The red means that they're eligible to retire now. And then the white is they're not eligible to retire. But you can see quite quickly, you're going to start to see in the next 5 years what's going to happen in that department, as well as who's eligible to retire.
And the yellow, which means they're eligible to retire in 5 years, doesn't show up
It's
on
hard
the
to
color here, but they're murky brown. It's a little murky, less green. Those are yellow, and that's within 5 years.
Again, a little snapshot for planning. You can see the high number of reds, that's eligible again to retire now. And yellow, which again, it's really, apologize that you can't necessarily see it, but that's eligible to retire within 5 years. So again, quick snapshot, we'll do this for every department. We'll go around, we'll meet with each of you to talk about these holes that are coming up.
Green is not eligible. In 5 years, they're still not eligible to retire. But some of the slots that are yellow don't show up as yellow here on this slide. They're
They're murky color,
murky,
sorry.
brown,
Yeah.
green. Those are eligible to retire in 5 years.
But the reds are the ones to focus on. White, they're not eligible.
White is vacant.
White's vacant. I'm sorry, so within, what I want to focus on though is the red, because if you look at the holes that we have coming up, that's really telling that where we need to start focusing on our needs. Move the next. Again, so this was just a split, we're going to split water. So water, admin, engineering, and then we switch it over to operations. Again, the red, you see the holes that the leadership, these are leadership positions that are going to need to be seriously considered for our planning for the future. Some of the things, another criteria that we also looked at are where are vulnerable positions, particularly in our case, in service and hard to replace positions. We're looking at certified positions. Those are very difficult. We're having difficulty in recruiting. Electricians, mechanics, those types of positions, we're having high numbers of eligible folks to retire, and then trying to find those folks that have those skills to come in. So that's a concern for us. Building inspection, a lot of the trades, again, we are finding it's very difficult to find eligible candidates to come and want to work in the public sector as opposed to the private sector. Again, I just want you to see it. This is just a snapshot, and we certainly didn't line out all of the positions, but what our plan is to do is to then go with each of the departments, and we will start to take a closer look at each of your areas. What's your difficult recruitment? What do you see coming down the line? What's your potential for opportunities for your employees, so we know where to develop? That's the key to this process, is how are we going to develop those existing talent pool to fill those spots.
Questions for Lisa. We'll be finalizing these org charts, send them to you. The reason most good agencies who deal with succession development color code the org charts, just like we've begun to do here, is because very graphically you begin to say, oh my God, we have a challenge here. What are we going to do? It's very compelling. Okay, let's give Lisa a hand. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's, we'll be getting more data per department. Again, you have to look at your own department. We, obviously in public safety, we got a big challenge, as well as across the board, and certain key vulnerabilities scattered throughout the organization. Okay, so we're facing this retirement wave, and I'd like to take out a pen and jot down what have you experienced, what do you see as some of the impacts, the organizational impacts as people start to exit stage right. So what are the organizational impacts as people begin to, in big numbers, begin to retire. There's a lot, so you can jot down 3 or so. Okay, who has a big impact? Yes.
A loss of a sense of history of the department.
Yes, a loss of history of the sense of the department, basically a loss of institutional knowledge, not only in departments, but across the organization. There's a lot of history. If you don't understand the history, you can't be effective. So when people leave stage right, they take their history and their institutional knowledge with them.
But that's also a good thing.
I'm sorry? That's a good thing.
That's also a good
And
thing
tell me
because-
why it's a good thing.
Because sometimes institutional history means that you aren't able to make the changes
Right.
that...
So it brings in
Because
new
we tried that
blood,
once and it didn't
new
work.
blood, new perspective, new ideas.
New opportunities.
That's what?
New opportunity.
And new opportunities. If we embrace that new blood, new ways of doing things, new perspectives. I mean, when you get some of these millennials coming in, they say, why are we doing it this way?
I know.
What? This doesn't make any sense. Yes,
The employee-supervisor relationship and rapport is difficult to build.
yes, it's all about relationships. You cannot, if you're an effective leader, and we're going to talk about this in a second, it's not about your positional authority, it's about your relationship with your employees plus other key players. And you build relationship over time. That is an incredible commodity, valuable commodity, relationship and connection. And when you leave, those relationships leave with you. What else?
Training needs.
Yes. Yes.
Training needs.
Training. When you lose somebody, you bring somebody in, there are training costs. We're going to talk about those in a second. Yes.
Just the loss of tacit and explicit operational knowledge.
Yes, operational knowledge. And you make a very good distinction between tacit and explicit. We're going to talk about that. That's a key issue. Yes.
I was going to say loss of continuity on long-term planning.
Yes. The continuity, planning, we all know where we're going. All of a sudden, there is a disruption of that.
I was also going to say, thinking outside the box is great, but thinking outside the box is great only when you know what's in the box and who.
Right. Yeah, right. What is in the box? Yeah. And why is it in the box? Very good. Yeah.
There's a higher competition for filling vacant positions because all agencies are going through this.
Yes. It used to be you could steal talent. That's what we did. We got a big, important position. We went over and stole some talent. If you try stealing talent now, you're going to fail. If that is your strategy, stealing talent from other agencies, I can guarantee you will fail. You can't do that anymore. Yes.
A loss of productivity?
Yes, lots of productivity. Let's take one more here. With another impact. Yes, sir.
Work dynamics have changed.
I'm sorry?
Work dynamics change.
Yes, more dynamic, everything. Because again, all the pieces fit in some way or another, and all of a sudden, that dynamic changes.
Frank, can you explain what you just said about stealing talent will fail? Explain
Okay.
what you're thinking of.
Okay, let me give you an example. In the old days, not too long ago, if I had a planning director position, an HR director position, a finance director position, I make sure my salary is high enough, and I would go out and steal a seasoned finance director or agent, not unproven, seasoned, of a certain age, of a certain experience, and I could get them if I was a good organization like this one, like Palo Alto. And I would have some competition for those positions. Now, today, if I were a city manager, thank God, no longer. If I were a city manager and I get a recruitment for a seasoned HR finance director, what have you, if I got one qualified talented professional who was seasoned, experienced, knew what she was doing or what he was doing, I would buy drinks for everybody in this room. Think about your last recruitment for a key position and how easy or difficult that was. Let me share with you what I put down. Over time, promoted managers or other employees not ready to advance. Because we can't steal talent, we promote internally. Sometimes they're ready, sometimes they're not. And those have consequences. Difficulty recruiting seasoned managers, we just talked about. The loss of productivity and service problems when you bring in new people. Loss of institutional knowledge, increased recruiting and training costs. By the way, most of the research shows that when you have a key position, you lose that position when you calculate and monetize the cost of recruiting, the cost of training, the cost of lost productivity. You can count on 200 to 300% of annual salary. Those are the costs. Think about it. First of all, if you have how quickly do you do a recruitment around here? Yeah. So if you look at 5 months, 4 months, 5 months of lost productivity, the cost of recruiting, the cost of training, the cost of getting a person up to speed, you're talking about 200 minimally %. And then the loss of organizational capacity. When you are at full staff and everybody's working together, it is difficult, but you can figure out how to handle these demands that keep coming. They keep coming. Now, during the recession, when you had less resources, was there any reduction in demands? No, not at all. So these demands keep coming. You can sort of figure out how to handle them organizationally, but when you lose people, particularly key people, you lose this organizational capacity to deal with new demands. And then, of course, the big plus that we were talking about is new blood, new perspectives, new ideas, new approaches, questioning of why we do the things we do the way we do them. So there's a lot of consequences that we need to be aware of as we undergo these generational shifts. Yes, sir?
So how often does an organization accept those costs and burdens in a reactive fashion as opposed to being proactive and incentivizing existing people?
Right. So the question is, by you focusing on this issue, you're trying to get proactive. Most organizations are just letting it happen. So I commend you because you're beginning to say, oh my gosh, look at the numbers, look at the data, the workforce analysis. We got a problem. How do we prepare ourselves to deal with it? That's what we're doing right now, this moment, going forward. This is sort of a kickoff. So if you don't plan for this and you don't take conscious, strategic steps to deal with it, you're in deep trouble. So good. This is good news for you. You're doing something about it. Did I answer your question? Sure. It's okay. If I sort of answered, that's cool. Okay. So what I want you to do is part of to be successful in the future, you need a workforce, a future workforce, which is a lot of people in this room, with the skills and capacities to address the big challenges of the day. And again, Martin alluded to that in his opening comments. So, I'd like you to identify 2 or 3 very big challenges facing the Santa Cruz organization and community. Don't be puny. What are the big challenges facing the community and your organization in the next 5 years? Because you're going to need the capacity and the skills and the competencies to deal with that. There's 10 to 20, so 2 or 3 should be good. Okay, so this is what we're going to do in a moment. You're going to stand in a moment, and you're going to pair off with somebody who's in a different department. Okay? Different department, pair off. I want you to share a couple, 3 with the other person and vice versa, and we'll see how close we are in terms of our perspective on the big challenge. So let's do that. Everybody stand. We're going to quickly share. Find somebody, pair off. Okay, everybody can find their seat. Jim is our reporter. Jim, you get the first shot. What's a big challenge?
Cost of living versus salaries.
Okay, so just the outrageous cost of living, and that affects us attracting talent. It also affects our community. So cost of living. Who has something similar to that? Raise your hand.
Housing.
Wow, yeah, we all experience that. Okay, cool. Okay, who has a different one? Yeah.
Daily infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, infrastructure. You know, when I got to Palo Alto, I came from Southern California, world-class city. Wow, I was so excited. I got there, the place is falling apart. Everything was built in the 50s and 60s, I don't know about Santa Cruz. The place is falling apart. So this infrastructure deficit, and people, you know, keep demanding services. We gotta put money back just to maintain, forget the new facilities. Big issue, yes sir.
Diminishing talent pool for industrial activities.
Yes, diminishing, particularly in the technical and industrial areas. Okay, by the way, who had also something about infrastructure? Okay, and how about technical skills in certain areas? We got that, okay, cool. Who has another one? Yes?
Growth in demand for services.
Yes, it keeps growing. And again, we have just a pot of money, and the pot of money is not growing as fast as the cost. Yes?
Climate change or natural disaster?
Yeah, climate change, the whole sustainability issue. How many people have that? That's okay, forget climate. Okay. Okay, we got 3. We'll put it down on the way. Yes.
Housing, not
Yes.
it's separate from the cost of living.
Yes.
Both availability as well as.
Yeah, so the housing crisis is not a challenge, my God. You know, in Palo Alto we used to say, oh my God, our kids can't afford to live there. Forget the kids. How about us? You know, forget the kids. Wow. Yes. Homelessness. How many people, by the way, housing? Anybody put housing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. Homelessness? Wow, okay, yeah. Who has another one? Yes.
Cost of medical care?
Yes, medical care, yes. It's still a big challenge, and it's been even what we have now is being present. Who has another one? Yes.
Revenue security.
Yeah, revenue security. Now, what does that mean to you?
It means with the increased demand for services
Yes.
and underfunded capital improvements,
Yes.
we don't have a viable means to increase revenue to meet those demands.
Right. So you need the money to keep the machine going. And that's it, because, and here's the big issue. You know, we used to be concerned about the increased, the cost structure. the untenable cost structure, particularly as it relates to employee costs, pension costs, healthcare costs, which is true, we have to constrain those costs. But the real issue in my mind is on the revenue side. Because our revenue, tax revenue, is tied to economic transactions, and the economy has changed. We're in a service and knowledge economy that doesn't produce any money for local government, direct money to the local government. And the portion that we tax is growing smaller and smaller in terms of the total economy. And nobody has the will to change the tax structure. Big problem. It's going to get worse. That's why we're in permanent fiscal stress. Back, let's put that down. Permanent fiscal stress. I get to put something down, I'm in charge. Permanent fiscal stress. Okay. Yes, sir.
Challenge with communicating to the public with
Yes. Communicating with the public, interacting with the public, engaging the public. You can't do anything without this interaction, engagement, communication piece, and it's very difficult, particularly with certain anti-government perspectives. Yes. Oh, wait. We only have a little bit more space on the paper. Okay, one there. Yes, sir.
I come across a lot of younger generation who do not want to be part of a union.
So anti-union, and we're a union shop. Who else has what? We got one more. Yes.
Both job loss and we're losing diversity of jobs
Right.
and businesses.
Okay, so loss of business diversity and the kinds of jobs we have in the economy. Okay, let's give Jim a hand here. Okay, so some very big challenges, and again, we need, and I'm going to get to this in a moment, we need the capacities, the skills, the competencies to deal with these kinds of issues. We're going to leave it up because I want to make a point about it in a moment, right now. Okay, if you're going to deal with these big challenges, which you must, as a leader, you must differentiate and understand the nature of the challenge you are facing. Now, Ron Heifetz and his colleagues from Harvard have made a distinction between technical challenges and adaptive challenges. Technical challenges are where the solutions are known and they can be handled through management. So, a classic example are potholes. We can survey the potholes. We have a pavement management system. We know where the potholes are. We know how much it costs to repair. We go get the budget. We schedule the crews, and as managers, we ensure that the work is done on time, on budget, and it's reliable, quality work. Those kinds of technical challenges are, in the literature, they're called tame challenges. Those technical challenges are very different from adaptive challenges. The solutions are unknown. They often involve value conflicts. Every stakeholder group has their preferred solution. Think about traffic congestion. Every group has their own preferred solution about how to deal with traffic congestion. And you cannot solve these challenges with management. You need to exert leadership. And I'm going to talk about the difference of that in a second. With adaptive challenges, there are no right or wrong answers. You have to accept that. There are no right or wrong answers. So, classic adaptive challenges are affordable housing, traffic congestion, homelessness. We have even gotten to the point in this society where childhood immunization has become an adaptive challenge. It used to be a technical challenge. We know how to deal with childhood immunization. You get all the kindergartens in and you give them vaccinations. Oh my God, now it's war.
Fluoridation.
Yeah, what's that?
And fluoridation.
And fluoridation is another one, right? Yeah. Okay, now, I want you to tell me which of these very big challenges you all have identified as a technical challenge. You're surrounded and overwhelmed with adaptive challenges, not technical challenges. So in this room, we have incredible technical know-how, skills, aptitudes, yet we're called on not to use our technical skills, but our leadership skills. So let's differentiate between, well, before I do that, I want to share with you this information. Let's go back. Before I get going here, let me differentiate between management and leadership. Management you can use for technical challenge, leadership you can use for adaptive challenge. Management is based on your positional authority, your formal authority. And I've discovered, as I'm sure you have, that your management authority can only force a minimal level of compliance. You have to accept that. And there's a line, and employees know as part of their DNA, they know where this line is. If you work up to the line, it's cool. If you work below the line, you're in trouble. If you work above the line, you say, wow, thank you very much. I don't know about you, but again, in my career, I'm an idea guy. I got great ideas. And I'm a chief executive. So I call people together, the staff, and I say, I got a great idea. And they all nod their heads. Yeah, Frank, another great idea. Thank you very much. And I said, this is such a great idea. We're going to implement it. Everybody follow me. I'm the chief executive. Everybody follow me. And they're telling me they're going to follow. Yeah. I look back, and there's nobody there. They promised me they were going to follow. Of course, I was trying to use my management authority, my formal authority. Leadership is much different. It's not based on your positional authority. It's based on your interpersonal attributes. I would even suggest your moral or spiritual attributes. It's about winning the hearts and minds of people to deal with these kinds of problems. It's about starting conversations, convening people, facilitating problem solving, mobilizing action when everybody can tell you no. Everybody can tell you no. Everybody has veto power. Try to solve one of these problems in your community. Everybody can stop you. So how do you get to yes as a leader when everybody can say no? That's the leadership challenge. So, one of my favorite quotes is from Jim Collins. Anybody read Good to Great? Anybody read that book? Great book. He says, you know, it's a leadership challenge, a leadership situation, as opposed to a management situation. You know, it's a leadership situation when followers can decide not to follow. That is a leadership situation. When followers can decide not to follow. Now, one of my favorite quotes from Charles Lord, the poet and author, is, leaders do not force people to follow. They invite them on a journey. Isn't that a wonderful way of thinking about leadership? They invite them on a journey. And I love the metaphor of the journey, because with a journey, you know sort of the general direction, but not the precise destination. So as a leader, are you excited enough about the journey? Are you passionate enough about the journey? If you're not, why the hell should anybody join you on the journey? Okay, I'm going to share with you some of the capacities I think you need to embrace as part of your leadership development efforts, your talent development efforts, and then we're going to take a break. So I'm going to suggest that there are 7 key competencies that you, over time, you should develop in your leader. By the way, anybody can be a leader. Anybody can be a leader. So what are the leadership competencies for 21st century leadership? Now, I base this on my 40 years in the trenches, but also my work as a consultant now in leadership development as well as the literature. So what are some of these? I'm going to quickly take them on. Number 1 is an active futures orientation. When you're faced with these kinds of challenges, you need what is called an active futures orientation. Now, we often say we have to manage change. You cannot manage change. Peter Drucker, the great management thinker of the 20th century, he says you can't manage change. All you can do is begin to perceive some possibilities in the environment, see some of those opportunities, and shape the change as it occurs. So that's what an active future orientation is about. How do we shape the change as it is occurring? There's basically 3 reactions to change, internally and externally. Some embrace change, that's sort of to shape it. 2, you can try to be neutral to change. A lot of employees throw up their hands and say, you know, whatever happens, happens. That's a very passive orientation. That won't serve you well. And some even try to, the 3rd reaction is to resist change. Well, these waves of change are too big. They're going to overwhelm us. You cannot resist the change. So an active future orientation is embracing the change and trying to shape it as it occurs. Number 2 is boundary crossing and partnering skills. You cannot solve any problem in your silo. Any of these problems, you cannot solve in your silo. So, let's take gangs. I could double the budget of the police department. I would never do that. It's a great thing. When you're in your encore, you can say whatever the hell you want. I'm sorry, I'm a playful guy. I could double the budget of the police department. They cannot solve the gang problem. It's too big. I could double the budget of the library department. They can't solve literacy problems, issues.
It would help.
It would help, yeah. Spoken like a true librarian. You have to cross boundaries. And when you cross boundaries, you have no authority. The police chief cannot tell the Parks and Recreation director what to do. The police chief can't tell the superintendent of schools what to do. The police chief can't tell a neighborhood group what to do. He has to exert leadership, not management. So, when you cross boundaries, you have no authority. So what you're trying to do is to turn stakeholders into partners. Stakeholders they're very different. Stakeholders can oppose you, they can resist you, they can abuse you. I'm sure you've all experienced this. What you want to do is just turn these stakeholders into partners. Now, partners may at times disagree with you, but they're struggling with you, and they're trying to find a solution with you, even though we may disagree. It's a whole different thing. You cannot solve a problem. In fact, if you can solve a problem in your department, in fact, if you can solve a problem in your city government, it's not a very big problem. All of these problems you cannot solve inside your boundaries. The 3rd one is one of my favorites, is learning agility. In a very uncertain, disruptive world, you operate in a very uncertain, disruptive world, technical knowledge becomes quickly obsolete. I'm very proud of my technical knowledge. I have to acknowledge that it becomes quickly obsolete. So in a disruptive, uncertain, turbulent environment in which you operate, learn how becomes as important as know how. Learn how is when you get thrown a problem for which you know little. Climate protection. You do a lot of research, you talk to people, you engage with people, you have a whole bunch of conversations, you figure out what you'd like to try out, you try something out, you experiment, you fix it up as you go along. That's what learning agility is all about. And you have to take some risks as you do that in a risk-averse environment. Learning agility is the key competency of the 21st century. Now, the 4th one is, we often focus on communication. And in fact, we mentioned that earlier. Communication, how do we communicate about this? And And we understand it's not just talking or presenting, it's also listening. But I really think it goes well beyond that. So as you look at communication skills as part of your leadership development, talent development effort, I would like to suggest that it also includes the ability to engage others in conversation. Now, when I was the head of the League of Cities City Managers Department, I was in charge of a conference, and I invited a poet, David White, W-H-Y-T-E, to be the keynote speaker. All the city managers hated it. A poet? Get out of here. And he said something I had never considered. David White said, leadership is the art of conversation. With whom are we having conversation? What's the content of our conversation? How are we making adjustments as a result of conversation? Leadership is the art of conversation. And in fact, communication without conversation is failure. It's impotent. Now, it really goes beyond conversation, which is the ability to tell stories. Stories are the most powerful way to communicate. Now, we're very data-driven in local government. If you go into your department head's office or the city manager's office or into the council chambers and you don't have data, you're going to be kicked out of the room. Data is necessary, but completely insufficient. I don't know if you've had this experience. I have. I've done with our team some research. We've come up with looked at options. We've come up with a great recommendation. I get up in front of the council. I propose very strongly the recommendation. I see the council has nodded. I sit down, and we have public vendors from the audience, a public hearing. A little old lady gets up, and she tells a story, a personal experience. I get shot out of the water. Why? She had the narrative and I did not. All I had was data. Data is necessary, but completely insufficient. Now, so what am I going to do to make my point? Tell a story. And I'm going to tell you a story, the bagel story. It's called Frank's Bagel Story. And this is when I was hired as a city manager in Palo Alto in the year 2000. And I knew intellectually that Palo Alto is a university town. Everybody, is afraid of taking a risk. We got all these rules, all these procedures. We talk things into death. We never take a risk. So I arrived on Monday and I called a little huddle in the city manager's office, and I asked everybody to come together, and I told everybody that we were going to have a series of employee meetings throughout the organization, 13 of these meetings, and at these meetings I was going to ask the employees what I could do to be a great city manager for them. And I said the first one's going to be Tuesday, tomorrow. It's going to be 9 a.m. in the council chambers. And oh, by the way, make sure there's coffee and bagels. You can't have a meeting without coffee and bagels. So one guy in the city manager's office said, you can't do that. I said, I'm the city manager. He says, I don't care, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? He says, you can't do that. I said, why? He said, it's against the law. And sure enough, he's right. It's against the law to have coffee and bagel beverage food in the council chamber. So what did I say? I don't care. I'm not going to have my first meeting with employees without coffee and bagel. Make sure they're there, ready to go before 9 o'clock. So like any good speaker, I arrived, and about 5 minutes before 9, and sure enough, there's coffee and bagels. 3 different kinds of bagels, 4 different kinds of bagels, cream cheese, coffee, Costa Rican coffee. So I get my bagel and cream cheese, my coffee, and I go up in front of the council chambers, and sure enough, employees start arriving at 9, 250 employees. They look at the bagels, they look at the cream cheese, they look at the coffee, and they keep walking. Not one employee and 250 employees are getting coffee or bagel. Why? It's against the law. So I'm in front of everybody. I said, welcome, I'm Frank Benest, I'm the new city manager. And I said, everybody please stand. And again, minimal compliance using your management authority, everybody stood. I said, my second order of the day is everybody go to the back of the room and get coffee and bagels. Nobody moved. I said, it's an order. Go and get coffee and bagels. Finally, one young guy, thank God, newly hired, wasn't consumed by our organizational culture, gets up, goes, gets coffee and bagel, and finally everybody went and got coffee and bagel. And that story, later to be known as the bagel story, spread like wildfire throughout the organization. That we were going to try a few things, try some things out, take some risks, learn some stuff. We weren't going to be afraid anymore. And that story helped us shape a new day in our organization. Stories are the most powerful way to communicate. And the definition I love about stories, and of course your stories have to be true. They have to be authentic. They have to be aligned with reality. My favorite definition of a story is stories are data with a soul. Isn't that a wonderful definition? Data with a soul. They make the data come alive. Now quickly I want to end with the last three and then we'll take our break. Number 5 is the ability to create meaning. We in local government focus on, typically like other organizations, the how and the why. The how and the what. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Think of a staff meeting. You walk in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. We don't talk about the why. The great leaders of the 21st century will begin to focus on meaning and purpose. Particularly, everybody needs that, but particularly younger professionals need to understand the meaning and the purpose. Millennials are purpose-driven. So we need to take a time out, talk about the why. Now, for certain of us, we get it. If you're a paramedic, you're saving lives. We don't have to talk too much about the why. If you're a children's librarian, you've got all these kids in front of you at story hours, that situation is imbued with meaning. How about the custodian? How about the maintenance worker? How about the payroll clerk? What's the meaning and the why behind the work? And if you're going to be a great leader, you have to not create meaning, but translate the meaning. That's what it's all about. The why is the most important motivator. Number 6 is resiliency. If you're going to be a great leader, and again, it doesn't depend on your position, you got to be resilient. Now, I learned this lesson when I was new on the job again in Palo Alto. First couple of weeks, the police chief, Lynn Johnson, walked into the door, great police chief. She says, Frank, I have 2 gifts for you as our new city manager. I said, 2 gifts? That's very nice. I said, what's the first gift? She gave me a bulletproof vest. I said, wow, I knew this was a tough job. A bulletproof, she says, Frank, if you want us to take these big risks you talk about, you're going to have to take some bullets for us. Wow, I get it. So I said, okay, and what's the second gift? She says, you ever see these clowns that you blow up and you knock the clown down and it bounces back? She says, we're going to be watching you, Frank. If you are a great leader, you're going to get knocked down. And if you want us to bounce back and take those risks, you're going to have to bounce back yourself, and we're going to have to see it. Wow. So I kept those 2 gifts right there in my office by my round table, so I reminded myself about taking those risks, taking a few bullets, and making sure I bounce back. And number 7 is the ability to develop talent. Let's take this is the last one. what would all the managers and supervisors in this organization say is the primary responsibility of a manager in the city of Santa Cruz? Who would like to suggest the primary responsibility, or a primary responsibility? Yes?
Leading.
I'm sorry?
Leading.
Leading, okay. By the way, I've done this with tens of thousands of people, so we're going to compare your answers. Leading, who has another? Yes?
Work yourself out of a job.
Work your way out of a job. Boy, these two are inconsistent with what I hear from 10,000 other real men. Okay, what else? No. Yes. Listening. No. Boy, you guys are either the weirdest group of managers I've ever met. Yes.
Balance my budget.
Balance your budget. Now, that's a lot of, again, I've done this tens of thousands. That is one of them, but it's not the top one. But it is live within the budget.
Keeping your staff happy.
Boy, no. Keeping your staff happy. Who else has something?
Mentor.
No. Yes.
Represent the city?
No. Yes.
Get stuff done.
Push out the work. Push out the work. Again, I'm not disputing anything you said. I'm just saying, of the 10,000 employees, I've done this, managers, I've done this for the last 20 years. Number one,